It is time to go back to school, everybody, because college football is actually coming on even closer than the NFL season. We always get excited about the NFL because there are training camps, ESPN and media really hypes it, but college football is just around the corner. Now that it is August, college football is going down in this month, everybody, so we have a lot to get to with our college football analyst, Tommy Morris. You can check him out on Twitter or X, whatever we're calling it these days, at Real Tommy Morris. That's at Real Tommy Morris. Tommy, how you doing today?
Yeah, I'm still not sure. Is it a tweet still? What are we calling them now?
I don't know. Are we calling them posts, reposts? Are we calling them X's? I don't really like talking about my X's, if I'm being honest. But I guess that's what we're doing these days. How are you doing? And before we jump into how you're even doing, when it comes to college football, is there anything that really gets you even excited at this point as we enter into August?
Well, to be biased, as much as I try not to be biased, being a USC graduate, this is one of the better teams I've ever had. So that, yes, obviously gets me excited. There's going to be a lot of drama just with a lot of these schools shifting around conferences. There's some new teams in new conferences and also some teams playing in their current conference for the last time. So, last chance to get the licks at their traditional rivals. So a lot going on this college football season. And like you mentioned, August 26th, first game, week 0, we're ready to go.
Now, you mentioned that, and that's where we're going to start. We'll get into the 2023 season in just a second, but these are changing times. The tectonic plates of college football are definitely shifting. Colorado is the latest domino to move, as they're going to move out of the Pac-12 to the Big 12. First of all, being someone who is located out there in Pac-12 country, what's been the reaction so far?
Well, the reaction is this conference going to exist? You have a lot of rumors of teams that might come into the Pac-12, but who would want to join a conference that might not be around in 5 years? So the TV deal seems to be very sketchy, to say the least. It doesn't look good. There was a kind of a big Pac-12 versus Big 12 showdown, and one of us is going to probably survive this, with the Big 10 sucking up some of the bigger schools from the Pac-12, and it looks to me like the Big 12 is going to be the winning conference out of these two. So we'll see. I don't think the Pac-12 will totally disappear off the map, but if you look at the WAC, which this happened about 15 years ago, completely lost Division I football, just every single team going from there to the Mountain West, with a lot of teams going, shifting around the first time this all happened. So I would be very concerned if I was a Pac-12 school, and it looks like the Arizonas want to make a move towards the Big 12. It looks like Washington and Oregon want to be Big 10 schools, and it looks like Stanford and Cal want to join those two as well in the Big 10, So I would be very concerned if I'm a Pac-12 member school, and I'd be trying to, look through my Rolodex to figure out where can we land for the next 5 years, because I don't know if this conference will be around anymore.
So often we talk about you cut the head off, you cut the snake off at the head. To me, the head of the snake is Oregon. If the Pac-12 loses Oregon and loses that Nike money, I think it would be devastating. But really, they have a problem not just at the head, but at the feet. Because if they lose the Arizona schools and they lose the Pacific Northwest schools in Washington and in Oregon, the Pac-12, it just ceases to be a conference. It really is a shell. But here's my question for you. In these moves, Colorado, Texas, Oklahoma, which one do you think is ultimately going to end up being the quote-unquote biggest winner, who probably got the best deal or got the most out of their transition to another conference?
I think you got to look at Colorado, just because they have not been a good Pac-12 school. They haven't really done much football-wise. I know basketball, they've had some success, but they don't bring baseball to the table, don't even have a team. So for them to get out of the conference before the Washingtons and Oregons of the world and the Arizonas of the world is a pretty big win right there. Texas and Oklahoma moving to the SEC, to me, is a little, I think it's obviously money-wise, it's a great move, but they might struggle because now you don't have any of those doormat schools anymore. You're playing good teams every single week as far as football is concerned, and same with basketball. So maybe, again, monetarily, it's a good move, but I don't know if it's going to help them be competitive athletically.
Now, let's put conferences to the side, and let's talk about actual teams. Number 1 ranked team, no surprise here, the Georgia Bulldogs. The Bulldogs have been recruiting better than anyone in the country over the last few years, and it has shown up in their national championships. They keep getting 5-star, 4-star recruits. Kirby Smart is just dominating right now. Many people are putting him ahead of Nick Saban as the best coach in the country right now. Not all time, not looking at their record, their resume, but more looking at what they're accomplishing right now. However, there is some turnover at critical positions for Georgia. Quarterback, obviously, most notable. What are your thoughts on Georgia? What are our expectations for them in the 2023 season?
Still very high because Georgia's one of those teams that sort of zigs where you zag. Most of these schools will recruit a kid, they'll get their best athletes and put them on offense or try and focus more on offense. And that's what we've seen with all the points in college football. But Georgia doesn't do that. Georgia will beat you up on defense. So having a new quarterback is not as big of a deal as it might be for the Ohio States of the world. Just because, I mean, again, somewhat hypocritical. You can't call Stetson Bennett a game manager and say, oh, no, it's a big problem that Stetson Bennett's not here anymore. It looks like Carson Beck, is going to be the quarterback for them this year. Similar to Stetson Bennett, not going to wow you, but he's not going to lose you a game. He also has the best tight end in the country, and Brock Bowers on his side to go along with Dominic Lovett and Lava Conkey, at wide receiver. So they have weapons on offense, but really it's a defense. They have 4 preseason all-SEC defensive players. It's going to be a very physical, beat-you-up type Georgia team that we're used to seeing.
That was a brilliant point that you just made that I actually want to touch back on. It makes me think of Kirk Cousins in the Netflix show about quarterbacks. He quotes Margaret Thatcher saying, "If my critics saw me walk on water, they would claim I couldn't swim." And I feel like that Stetson Bennett remark you made really fits into that, which is this idea of, oh, Stetson Bennett is just a game manager. Oh, but what's Georgia going to do without Stetson Bennett? Well, it can't be both at the same time. He either was a good quarterback or this is a plug-and-play system. My expectation is it actually is probably a little bit of both. He probably was more clutch. He probably was better in bigger games than the plug-and-play guy, and yet the system for a majority of the season is plug-and-play caliber because the competition that Georgia will be facing isn't to the level of Georgia's overall talent. But one player that is of that level might be the best tight end in the country and the best tight end prospect that we've seen come out of college since Kyle Pitts. That's Brock Bowers. Do you think Brock Bowers is going to end up being a top 10 pick in the NFL draft next April?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it depends how the NFL season shakes up and who's up there, but this is a guy who would probably have been the number 1 tight end taken if he was allowed to come out into the draft this year. So I would, if anyone's got a shot to do it at the tight end position, it would be him because, like you said, he's probably the best prospect we've seen. I put him over Pitts as far as exciting prospects coming out of college at the tight end position. So if anyone's got a shot to do it, it's him.
Very interesting that you put him over Pitts. Definitely those are the 2 best tight end prospects that we've seen over the last 5-6 years. I do now want to shift to the school up north, as it's referred to by those at Ohio State, and that is Michigan. Michigan is ranked 2nd in the country, but they've got some problems because Jim Harbaugh is going to be suspended, it sounds like, for 4 games. I don't know if that's been completely resolved yet, but he's going to be out 4 games for recruiting violations, whatever it may be. 1, do you think that's actually going to have any real impact on Michigan? And 2, obviously the question that everyone cares about up there in Ann Arbor, is Michigan going to reach a national championship game and actually win anytime soon?
Yeah, I mean, we keep waiting for them to turn the corner, but in their defense, them just making to the playoffs a couple times is a pretty big jump for them from where they were before Harbaugh got there. There's a lot of, to me, it doesn't make sense much that what Harbaugh is claimed to have done, or giving a kid a hamburger or cheeseburger is now a 4-game suspension. I don't know if that's the full story. I'm give kind of a slap on the wrist. Hey, agree that you did this, and we'll look past some other things. But he is kind of wild when it comes to recruiting, but as far as I know, he stays within the rules. So he's going to miss 4 games. The 4 games he's going to miss are all home games. It's East Carolina, UNLV, Bowling Green, and Rutgers. Arguably the 4 easiest teams on the schedule. So if there are 4 to miss, he picked 4 good ones to miss. But also will help him, he's got J.J. McCarthy back. He's preseason all Big Ten quarterback. And he has the 2 best running backs, the best running back tandem in the country with Corum and Edwards back there. So if there is a team that is poised to do it, again, you have a returning quarterback, you have 2 guys in the backfield to help out offensively at least, this would be the team to do it, and these would be the games to do it. So not ideal, again, having your head coach out for 4 games, but if you had to handpick them, these would be them. Which
team do you think is more likely to reach the college football playoff? Florida State or Ohio State?
That's a very good question. Now, with Florida State, it's again one of those things. Are they ready to turn the corner? Are they ready to come back to fruition? It's kind of like when we talk about Texas. It's always like, are they back? You got a great quarterback down there, but they haven't really proven that they can. They have turned that corner yet. Excuse me. Ohio State has the big question that we were asking sort of about Georgia, but not to the same extent. Kyle McCord is going to pick quarterback for Ohio State. Everybody seems to have figured it out that they plug in at quarterback, and they all seem to be top picks. So you got to trust what they've got going on in the quarterback room and the recruiting process and their player development process. It also does help that Marvin Harrison Jr. and Ibuka are the two best wide receivers in the country on the same team. Like, not the best wide receiver tandem. Maybe the two best wide receivers in the country are on the same team. So Kyle McCord will be given a pretty good shot at making himself look good. I think Ohio State has a very, very good chance to make the college football playoff, where I think Florida State is somewhat of a team that would be kind of a pipe dream.
Two more questions for you before we let you go. The next one's going to be to exactly your favorite team. I know you're going to love talking about this account, and that is USC. This is maybe their best chance at a national championship since Pete Carroll. I'm not saying they're a national championship favorite by any means, but this is their best chance that they've had since that time. Caleb Williams coming back off of his Heisman campaign. What can we expect from USC, and are they a legitimate national championship contender, or are they just a college football playoff contender?
This should be a college football playoff contender, and I hesitate national championship want to. It helps when you have the best quarterback in the country. And Caleb Williams, and I cannot speak more highly of Caleb Williams. I think people compare it to, when Andrew Luck came out, this was the best quarterback prospect we've ever seen. I think Caleb Williams is better as a prospect than Andrew Luck. I don't think I've ever seen a better quarterback prospect, given the fact he's already won a Heisman, given the fact he can beat you with his legs and his arm. And everything for him just seems so effortless. If you watch a USC game, he's calm, poised, and he just always seems to have a good head on his shoulder. I, again, could not be more impressed with a quarterback. He does lose Jordan Addison, which isn't great. They get Dorian Singer to transfer in as a wide receiver. Mario Williams is still there. The big thing for USC was the defense was atrocious. It was embarrassing to watch at times. If you watch the Tulane bowl game, the way that they kind of blew that game. Again, bowl game, so who knows the motivation for some of the players, but it was a display of poor tackling all the way around, and they just looked completely lost against a team that they should have, in theory, kind of smacked around a little bit. So they've got some transfers on the defensive line, which should help, and that is the big question mark. If they can be decent, I'm not even saying be good. If they can be decent on defense, they have a very good chance, not only at the playoffs, but at a national championship.
Okay, last question that we have for you is, give me one team that could be this year's TCU, that kind of comes out of nowhere, that isn't an Alabama, that is a bit more kind of off the radar. They could still be ranked maybe in the top 15, but is outside maybe that top 7, not an LSU, not a Clemson, someone that's a little bit farther out that you think could crack that college football playoff.
Yeah, so kind of in that wheelhouse, I would put Washington in there. Michael Penix Jr. is coming back. It's like his 20th year in college football. Had a great season last year at his first season at Washington, the transfer from Indiana. This is a very good team. They won 11 games last year, and people kind of forgot about them because you look at the West Coast, people always just think about Oregon. They always think about USC, obviously. And Washington is always kind of that other team that, they're actually really good also, and they've had a pretty good story program. So if you're going to look out for one team that right now people don't think about for a playoff berth, I would look as far northwest as possible to Washington.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Tommy Morris. You can check him out at @RealTommyMorris on Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it. Make sure you check us out. Every week he's going to be joining us either on Mondays or Tuesdays to give us some good college football information, good analysis, and obviously break down the Heisman race. We'll talk some bets over the course of the year as well. But Tommy, great to have you on the show. Hope you have a great day.
Well, thank you very much.
Appreciate Tommy being with us. Hope you guys enjoyed that conversation.